But you don't have a constitutional right to turn on your own government and collaborate with the enemy of the nation.
Lindsey Graham was fully aware there were consequences of being a traitor to the United States. As he laid out right there, you do not have a right to collude with an enemy. If only before he died, we could have seen him brought to justice for doing just that. The second Lindsey Graham died, most people that followed him closely actually experienced a sigh of relief. Washington, however, did what Washington always does. They washed the blood off his hands, and make no mistake, it was and still is there. Put a halo over his head, then started calling him a patriot.
Something very, very special. Lindsey, we love you. God bless you. We will always be with you, and you were very, very special. Thank you. Thank you.
Today, we are showing you why that is not the honorable thing to do. Lindsey Graham was one of the most shameless cheerleaders for war in American history. In fact, over the course of his public career, there is not one example of a war he didn't publicly advocate sending your son or daughter to fight. Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, Gaza, Lebanon. It didn't matter. If bombs were intended to drop, Lindsey Graham was cheerleading and grinning in genuine pleasure. In fact, it was so obvious by the time the Iran war came that he had played this part so many times, it was like he just hit autopilot.
Iran with a nuke is a nightmare for the Jewish state. It's a nightmare for the world because Arabs will want a nuclear weapon of their own and you'll have a nuclear arms race.
So let's ask the question Washington will never ask, and most Americans already know the answer to. Was Lindsey Graham actually serving the American people, or was he serving Israel while he occupied a seat in the United States Senate, a position of authority that gave him power and real-world levers he could pull? Because once you look at his donors, his relationships, the policies he spent decades pushing, the difference between American senator or foreign influence asset begin to look like a technicality. Adding insult to the already disgusting obvious fact, sitting front and center at Graham's funeral was Benjamin Netanyahu. They said the quiet part out loud. Not South Carolina's greatest defender, not America's greatest defender, Israel's greatest friend in the United States Senate. Their words, not mine.
Prime Minister Netanyahu is here. He loved you. He loved the state of Israel.
That wasn't an accident. That was his legacy. Netanyahu called him one of Israel's greatest champions, but the leaked footage showed something even more insane.
Hello?
Hey, boss. Phoebe's about to jump.
Did I? God damn it. Hello?
Hey, boss. Phoebe's jumping on the line. May I connect you?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Do you have it on speaker, Ryan?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. All right. Connecting you now.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, baby, Lindsey.
Hey, Lindsey. How are you?
I couldn't, I'm just so impressed. Glad to be your friend.
I'm glad you are my friend.
I'm going to meet with the president this weekend. I'm going down to Doral. I'm going to try to get him to join with y'all in Lebanon.
Behind closed doors, Lindsey Graham was apparently so desperate to expand the war that Benjamin Netanyahu had to be the voice of restraint.
To maybe fly some with you. Would you like that?
Yeah, I get that. I think you have a point, but I've been thinking about the other side of it for a second. We're concentrating right now on Iran. If we tell Hezbollah that we're going all the way, we threaten them, but if we actually do it,
Okay.
then they have no reason not to go all the way against us. And right
Okay.
now, that's not our interest. We
Okay.
can do it later.
Well, okay, well, that's actually good counsel. I'll put it out there as an idea. We can always go back to it.
Think about that for a second. You have to be completely unhinged when Netanyahu is the one telling you to calm down and stop trying to drag America into another front. And now, a leaked behind-the-scenes phone call has surfaced, dated just before the strikes against Iran finally happened. And Graham reacted like a kid on Christmas morning.
Democrats and Republicans are okay with the treaty. Now, you'll never get the treaty until you get a pathway for the Palestinians. You just can't get there. You can't get MPS to recognize Israel. So what I'm going to tell Bibi, and I just told Leiter, I talked to Bibi this morning. He called me and thanking me for everything. He says he's game. I said, listen, Bibi, and Smoltrich and Ben Gvir are not going to deliver. If you win your election, it's going to be before our election. I think the time probably to do this is a lame duck. We'll know pretty quickly whether Bibi is able to deliver. Oh, to be honest with you, I think about 3 to 4 weeks, we should have them in a spot where they start losing control of some cities. And what we're trying to do is just get a few cities to fall in the next month. Get the Arabs more openly involved tomorrow or by the end of the week, and just have almost irreversible momentum.
He wasn't worried about American soldiers. He wasn't worried about civilians. He wasn't worried about retaliation, regional war, or what this would cost the American people. He was laughing. Because for Lindsey Graham, war was never a tragedy. It was an achievement. And no, this wasn't just some deeply held personal belief. There was serious money behind Lindsey Graham's loyalty. Over his career, Graham became one of the highest lifetime recipients of pro-Israel political funding in the Senate, including more than $1 million connected to the Republican Jewish coalition. Funny how the politicians who scream the loudest for Israel always seem to have donors making sure their campaigns stay alive. The Republican Jewish coalition is legally an American organization. Nobody is disputing that. But let's stop playing stupid. Its political purpose is obvious: connecting wealthy donors to the American politicians willing to advance policies that benefit Israel. During Graham's 2020 Senate race, the RJC made saving his political career a national priority. In the final stretch of the election, it reportedly pushed more than $900,000 into keeping him in office. And behind that donor machine were Sheldon and Miriam Adelson, two billionaires whose political spending was inseparable from their commitment to Israel. Miriam Adelson openly described just how close they were with Graham every day.
There was not a day that Sheldon talked with Lindsey. They were talked about Israel. Lindsey gave him advice. Sheldon gave him advice, and they had fun.
A billionaire donor speaking every day with a sitting United States senator about Israel, Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights. But they keep telling us this was just friendship. The money had absolutely nothing to do with policy. Senior politicians were expected to fly to Las Vegas, sit in front of the Adelsons and RJC board, and prove why they deserved the money.
They addressed it.
I think the most special thing of today is the candidates came to present the Republican Jewish coalition where they believe that RJC is important.
That is an audition our elected, or should I say selected, representatives are taking part in. Senior Israeli officials moved through these same political circles, discussing strategy with the American lawmakers, responsible for weapons funding and military policy. Ron Diermer, Israel's former ambassador and strategic affairs minister, was one of them. And Lindsey Graham wasn't even subtle about how willing he was to break out the knee pads. Graham actually cracked a joke, asking the audience how many of them think Ron Dermer would make a great prime minister of Israel someday.
Ron Dermer. How many of you think Ron Dermer would be a great prime minister one day? I'm giving the first shekel to your campaign. But I want Bibi to hear I said one day, because if he thinks you're going to run soon, you're going to be ambassador to Gaza. So,
but truth be told, it probably wasn't even a joke. Graham also received money from major figures tied to AIPAC, including former board chairman Michael Kessin, longtime board members Larry Meisel and Robert Cohen. Laura and Ike Perlmutter also funded him. Ike Perlmutter is an Israeli-American billionaire, a former Israeli soldier, and the former CEO of Marvel. He has funded the Friends of the IDF, and organizations tied to the Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank. And here is the part Washington expects you to be too stupid to understand. Billionaires do not spend fortunes buying access to politicians because they are generous. They do it because they want something. Access, loyalty, weapons, policy.
I want the world to know anti-Semitism, anti-Israel rhetoric, anti-Israel thought is not the road to being elected as a Republican. You will lose.
And politicians like Lindsey Graham made sure they got their money's worth. When Gaza was being flattened, Graham didn't call for restraint. He didn't demand protection for the civilians. He didn't even pretend to care how many children were buried under the rubble. He told Israel to level the place. And then he went further. He compared Gaza to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, used America's atomic bombings as a moral excuse for giving Israel whatever bombs it wanted.
When we were faced with destruction as a nation after Pearl Harbor, fighting the Germans and the Japanese, we decided to end the war by bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki with nuclear weapons. That was the right decision. Give Israel the bombs they need to end the war they can't afford to lose.
This was not a slip of the tongue. This was Lindsey Graham publicly normalizing the mass destruction of a trapped civilian population. Before Lindsey Graham became television's favorite professional jackass, he was a military lawyer in the Judge Advocate General's Corps. He eventually reached the ranks of colonel and worked as a legal advisor on detainee operations during the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. He even received a Bronze Star. Washington loves medals because they make ugly records look honorable. But Graham's legal work was connected to the detention systems at Bagram Air Base, a place human rights organizations described as a legal black hole. Prisoners were held without meaningful due process. Reports described detainees being chained to ceilings, beaten, deprived of sleep, subjected to the extreme temperatures, sexually humiliated, and in some cases killed.
How many times we said we didn't do the crime, they would torture until the prisoners said yes. My legs are still weak and in pain. They yanked my private parts with a cable. I was bleeding from it for almost 6 years.
They knew we'd be upset if they disrespected the Quran, so they'd throw it in the toilet. I spent almost a year here. It was a scary place. Bagram was a place of utter cruelty and barbarism.
From uniforms to prison cells, inmates here have been telling us that this was one of the worst places to have been mentally tortured. If they did not behave well, these air conditioners would blow very cold air during the winter and very hot air during the summer.
The government can wrap that in whatever sanitized language it wants. Enhanced interrogation, detainee operation, national security. It was torture. And when prisoners demanded the most basic rights imaginable, the right to speak to a lawyer, Lindsey Graham's answer was simple. If they ask for a lawyer, you tell them to shut up. Washington wants you to believe death erases a record. It doesn't. A funeral does not turn a genocidal maniac into a hero. A flag-draped casket does not erase the hundreds of thousands or even millions of dead civilians he played a significant role in. And a room full of politicians praising each other does not make any of them honorable. Legally, Lindsey Graham was not a foreign agent. Okay, but Washington built the laws. Of course, the laws are written so politicians can take money from donors tied to a foreign government's interest, push that government's wars, demand American weapons, kill American troops, and still remain perfectly legal. It doesn't have to be secret. It doesn't have to involve a spy smuggling cash in a parking garage. The corruption is legal. The influence is public, and the money is reported right on the campaign paperwork. Lindsey Graham spent decades pushing invasions, bombings, regime change, and military escalation. He celebrated attacks against Iran. He called for Gaza to be leveled. He recalled Hiroshima and Nagasaki while demanding more bombs. And behind closed doors, he was apparently so eager for war that even Netanyahu had to tell him no.
Out now, their missile count is going way down.
No.
Amazingly, they're hitting countries.
Look what we've done here.
I know.
I almost cried.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how long have we been pushing this?
Well, I mean, you've been pushing this for years, right?
Right. It's here. I talked to Trump this morning.
It's literally.
Oh, he's jacked.
Yeah.
It's the best thing I've ever done. He loves blowing stuff up. So, you know, there are a lot of people inside didn't want to do it. So I've had my challenges. But President Trump, when he gets into the zone, he listens, he asks good questions, you know, no tweeting. He has done nothing. He hasn't tweeted much at all. No drama. He's been a great wartime president. I said last night that Trump and Bibi are like Roosevelt and Churchill.
So was Lindsey Graham technically a foreign agent? No. He didn't need to be. The system allowed him to serve another country's military priorities while sitting in the United States Senate and call it patriotism. He didn't need a handler. He had donors. He didn't need secret orders. He knew exactly what was expected, and he delivered again and again and again. I have given a lot of thought to what I should say in this document. I feel that I was fair, not to Lindsey Graham, but fair to every person that was touched by Lindsey Graham's legacy. A legacy of death and destruction. When one person dies, many are hurt. My prayers go out to every person hurt by the war on terror, as well as the staple to the war on terror, 9/11. None of us control life or death. However, some are able to contribute to both. Lindsey Graham has surely gotten what he deserved. I believe that. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe. And until next time.
Where the truth don't miss, no spin, no script, just real talk with Chris. cut the noise, break the mold, say the things they won't be told. Straight no chaser, no disguise, only truth behind these masks.